Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to all my fellow friends and to our beloved lecturer, Sir Azmi. Today we are from Group 5, will present on workplace learning. Before that, let me introduce Group 5 group member, myself, Ili Fikri Mahdi, Raymond Ujang Anak Ningkan, Nur Hidayatul Nadirah binti Maksah, Muhammad Shazril Farhas bin Muhammad Zailani, and last one is Wan Muhammad Akbar bin Wan Muhammad Roslan. So without wasting any time, we go to the introduction to workplace learning. Generally, we all know that workplace itself is a significant source of learning, and the workplace learning is defined as the acquisition of knowledge or skill by formal or informal means that occurs in the workplace. Another definition is from Collin 2011, which learning in the workplace is perceived as an ever-present practice that occurs through customary work system. So today, we know that there are rapid changes in many aspects of workplace, so they will need a continuous learning for new knowledge and skill to keep the pace with changes and stay relevant in workplace. Next, we go to the types of workplace learning style. The first one is the student. This learning style focuses on visual and verbal learners, which they have a preference for graphical and oral information. This type of learners also comfortable and can receive information in both visual and verbal ways. Second style is the independent. This type of learning style is suitable for visual and non-verbal learners only. Means that learners can convey and receive information in graphical forms such as maps, graph, or chart. Learners also prefer printed works like manual, report, and list to receive the information. The third one is the conventionalist. The auditory and verbal learners are the most suitable for this learning style, which learners prefer information that is heard and spoken. They learn best from things like lectures, discussion, and conversational note. And the last learning style is the hands-on learner. Kinesthetic learners have a preference to experience and practice things that they are learning. That is, they learning by doing. This includes like demonstration, simulation, and practical video. Alright, next we go to the phases of workplace learning. So basically there are 8 phases. The first one is prepare. This phase is the first introduction that the learner has to project. In this phase, the learner might require a guidance from the expert in order to prepare for the task. For the phase 2, which is communicate, this involves providing the learner with all the information that he or she might require. The effective communication is crucial in this phase because it will help the learner's involvement. The phase 3 is demonstrate. The mentor or senior showing the learners how to go about the new process allows them to see how aspect of environment interact and enable vicarious learning. Phase 4, practice. Experiential learning increase engagement by creating a process that is more immersive, allows hands-on understanding, and demands participation. for phase 5, which is check. Feedback is the key to improvement, and it always wise to take a step back and assess progress before plugging into the next round of learning. Phase 6, support. Learning needs to be assisted by physical and virtual support that enables learners to make the most of the curriculum. Phase 7, coach. Expert advice from mentor and coaches to have relevant experience adds a lot of value to learning process and also brings in a note of credibility that eventually leads to assurance and belief in the process. And the last phase is connect. To ensure that the learning is applied often, conference and other means of social connect help by improving dialogues, sharing and collaborative thought. Next, we go to the importance of workplace learning, which is there are 4. The first one is addressing weakness. So when the weaknesses were identified, the necessary step can be taken by employees to improve their skill for development. The second important is demonstrating consistency. Workplace learning can be helped to increase staff member retention of knowledge and help them to work better independently and in group setting. The third importance of workplace learning is employee satisfaction. So, the employee feel satisfied and happy when they realize that there are improvements in their self in terms of skill and knowledge. So the last importance of workplace learning is employee performance. Workplace learning is important to make employees knowledgeable about their role and how to better enrich their time at work. So I think that's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter for next topic. Thank you.
Thank you for previous presenter. So hi, my name is Raymond Ujang Ananikan. So now we will move to the next topic, which is situated learning. So for the definition, situated learning is a theory that explains an individual's acquisition of professional skill and includes research on apprenticeship into how legitimate preferred participation lead to membership in a community of practice. So Levy and Wenger 1991 focus on the kind of social engagement that provide the proper context and facilitate learning, instead of asking what kind of cognitive processes and conceptual structures are involved. Meaning that Levy and Wenger focus more on the situation, the culture, the environment that influence learning process, instead of how their brains process the information. So now we will move to the key element of situated learning. So first of all is a social interaction that's focused on communication and collaboration within the community. So through this relationship, through this interaction within the community, it will create the culture that will influence the learner, and through that they will gain the experience. So next is authentic context. It's referred to real, relevant and meaningful context. So by having a real, relevant and meaningful context, it will allow the learners to get meaningful knowledge and experiences. And last but not least is constructivist learning approach, which is referred to critical thinking and problem solving. So It will encourage learner to construct the knowledge by themselves rather than passively take the information. So they will gain the knowledge based on their own experience. Okay, next we will move to the situated learning characteristic. So first of all, we have access to expert performance. It's referred to experienced teachers in school later. Next is authentic activities. That's referred to activity that's still relevant now. And next is coaching and scaffolding. So as a new teachers, maybe we will need some guidance or advice from the experienced teachers. And next is multiple roles and perspective. So in the school, maybe we have a different perspective, different roles among the teachers. And last but not least, collaborative construction of knowledge. So maybe we as a teacher will have one or more teachers to collab to conduct the classes. So how can we apply situated learning? So yes, one of the way is by mentoring program. So we as a new teacher will be a mentee and experienced teachers will be a mentor. So we will learn the idea and concept by facing the situation, and knowledge is embedded in the activity, context and culture. So we can collab with experienced teacher where they can assist us and join and maybe bring some different perspective or vision throughout our lesson, so we can make an evaluation to our learning process, and by having the feedback and the feedback by the mentor, it will help us to become a better and better in future. Okay, we will move to the advantage and disadvantage of situated learning. So for the advantage, it will require active learning, real-world application, engage in invention, deeper order thinking, and less time spent on program. However, for disadvantage, it might be failure to acknowledge creative individuality, and also failure to acknowledge objectivity. Okay, for the conclusion, interaction between community can bring huge impact in our learning process as an educator. So last word from me, experience is not the best teacher, evaluated experience is. So that's all. I will pass it to the next presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and good evening everyone. So today it's my turn to talk about reflective practitioner. I am not sure whether all of us have heard about this topic or have read about this topic before. So today, without wasting any more time, I'm going to share with you what is reflective practitioner and the important elements that we have in reflective practitioner. Firstly, we're going to start with what is reflective practitioner, and the definition of reflective practitioner is learning through and from experience towards gaining new insight of our self-practice. What we can understand from this definition is reflective practitioner focuses on we learn through or from experience towards gaining new insight, meaning that we can improve. Let's say if we as a teacher, we can improve our teaching methods from experience in order for us to gain new methods or new way of teaching our students. So that is a very simple understanding or definition that we can extract from reflective practitioner. So moving on to the second slide. In this slide, we are going to talk about reflective cycle. So reflective cycle is one of the most important element in reflective practitioner. In reflective cycle, we have four most important point that we need to understand. So the first one is teach. Teach, we can understand that through sharing knowledge and experience, which is usually organized from a person to another person. So as a teacher, we should understand the meaning of teach, and we know teach is more towards sharing the knowledge or the information that we have in a formal or informal context together with our students. So the next point is in reflective cycle is self-assess. Okay, as a teacher, once we have shared our knowledge in a formal setting or informal setting, we should self-assess our method on how we deliver the knowledge. So self-assess is very important for us to understand or to improve our state of teaching or learning, or for us to understand that the effect on the learning towards the students. Moving on to the third point in reflective cycle is consider. So once we have self-assessed our method or the way or the impact of the learning that we have delivered to the students, we have to ensure that we consider new way of teaching which can improve the quality of learning. As a teacher, we need to be innovative, we need to be considerate for us to always improve the way of teaching, so that the students will not be bored on how we usually teach. If we teach the students on using the same method, eventually the student will get bored. And lastly, in reflective cycle is practice. So once we have considered new way of teaching, we have considered new method, we have to try the ideas and repeat the process. So when we repeat the process, then only we can know the new method, the new practice has an effect on learning, and it improve the knowledge that the student has. Moving on to the next slide. In this slide, we are going to talk about what is research models. Okay, research model is educational researchers have long promoted the importance of reflecting on practice to support student learning and staff development. Alright, in other words, to get the best result from the learning for both the teachers and student. So research model is where all the scholars or researchers they do models to help teachers to improve or to provide knowledge that could help the teacher become more effective on the delivering of the knowledge. So for the first research model that we are going to learn is, or we are going to look at, is Cobb learning cycle. So Cobb's learning cycle, we have four important elements such as reflective observation, active experimentation, abstract conceptualization, and concrete experiment. Okay, so in Cobb's learning cycle, we have four important points. So we're going to look on the first one is reflective observation, reflecting on the new experience. So once we get a sight of that we have a new method, we should reflect the method or the way of teaching on the new experience. So once we have the insight, then only we can consider whether this experience is good for us or not. Alright. On the second one is active experimentation, planning what we have learned into practice. So what we have learned previously, that we learned through experience or anything, we should plan that and put it into our practice, so that we can be more confident, or we can teach smoothly, so that the student can get the knowledge or can get the information without any problem. The third one is abstract conceptualization, is concluding and learning from the experience. So as a teacher, we need to conclude and learn from the past. We must not always think that the same method would help all children. all students, because students are different. We have many kind of attitude, we have many kind of behavior, so we need to always experiment, we need to always conclude and learn from the experience so that we can improve our state of teaching. And lastly is the concrete experience. In concrete experience, experiencing something new for the first time. We must always give a room for us to experience something new for the first time. We should not just live our life or teach the same way and not trying new things. As we know, even for example, technology always improve. It is not always the same. So same goes to teaching methods. We need to experience something new for the first time. The next research model that we are going to look is Gibbs reflective cycle. So in Gibbs reflective cycle, we have 6 points or 6 important elements that we have to understand. The first one is description, second evaluation, third feelings, fourth analysis, fifth conclusion, and sixth action plan. Alright, the first one is description. In Gibbs reflective cycle, description means clearly outline the experience, meaning that we have to break down the experience that we have for us to describe whether it is meaningful or not. The second one is evaluation. Once we have clearly outlined the experience, we have to evaluate or to give opportunity to discuss what went well and analysis the practice. So we have to evaluate whether the experience is worthy, is good, or it's not effective. And the third one is feelings. Encourage to explore any thoughts or feeling that had at the time. So we have to recall back whether if for a teacher, whether the learning session was happy or was sad, or orang kata dia hamba-hamba ke. So we have to understand the feelings, not our feelings as well, the students' feelings itself. Okay. Fourthly is analysis. We have to analyze the planning, what have learned into practice. Alright, so once we have already understand, we have evaluate, we have to analyze whether the experience can be considered into our planning so that we can practice it. Alright, and the fifth one is conclusion. Draw idea and show understanding what need to improve. And lastly is the action plan. After we have done all the cycle, we have to have action. So in action plan, we have sum up all the previous element of this cycle and we have to make it happen. So the benefits of reflective practice is help create teachers' confidence, encourage innovations, encourage engagement, develop sense of self-awareness, and improvement in own area of practice. So as we can see, because we analyze, we learn from experience, we consider feelings as well. So the benefit of reflective practice is for us to be, or for the teacher to be more confident, and we can innovate our teaching style, our teaching methods, and engage with the students more. So there are two misconceptions that I have found in reflective practicing. So the first one is it doesn't directly impact my teaching if I think about things after I have done them. Because some of us think that, why we should think the past, but we never know history that happened in the past help us to improve the state of we living now. And lastly is reflection takes too long, I do not have time. No, it doesn't mean that reflection need to be done immediately. Okay, reflection can happen when you are free. You can reflect yourself so that you can improve and try to experiment a new way of teaching. So that's all for me. Moving on to the next presenter.
So I will continue with the definition of Kaizen. So Kaizen comes from two Japanese words, which is Kai and Zen. Kai mean change while Zen mean good. So when these two words combined, it is pronounced as Kaizen, which means continual improvement. Next is Kaizen development. So Kaizen became famous in 1980s by the Japanese car manufacturing company, which is Toyota. Then Kaizen had been implemented also in other industries like healthcare, finance, psychotherapy, life coaching, also government and banking. And onward, Kaizen been practically used. So let's proceed to the next, which is Kaizen philosophy in education. So actually, Kaizen has been applied in education system by a lot of ways. It has improved our personal life, public life, and also the workplace environment. So actually, Kaizen philosophy helps individuals or also teams to increase the productivity, enhance the quality, improve the communication and also the social skills, while also develop the emotional and moral and also employee satisfaction. It is actually greatly aids the very purpose of education, which is, as the education meaning is to develop the knowledge, skill, and also the character of individual, which is bringing desirable change into the behavior of human beings. So yeah, in other words, that the best environment will help to create the rooms for the generation to produce new ideas. Alright, so let's proceed to the Kaizen implementation. PDCA. Okay, represent for plan, D for do, C is check, and also A for act. Whenever the problem comes or any new things, new program, you need to plan first. So by planning, you may discuss like how to select the area, the theme for Kaizen that need to be used, what is the target, how to collect the data, what kind of data. Alright, so by planning also you can identify what is the root cause that giving the effect, which mean causing the problem. And the most important thing is you need to create the countermeasure for the action plan. So do is implement all the plan that have been discussed on, which is test all the potential solutions, just try anyways based on the planning. Then you need to do the checking, where you collect the data, check the result, compare the result from before and after. So lastly is the act, which is the acting. So after doing all the step, you need to set one standard or one rules that all people need to follow to make team become easier and smooth. So the next one is Kaizen continuous improvement cycle. Basically, it is quite a bit similar to the PDCA, as the process are the same, but this usually be used to overcome any problems that pop up. So the first step is identify the problem. So you need to actually know what is the problem, what is the main problem, and after that you go to the analyze problem. So in this you need to identify the problem, how the problem happened, what is the root cause of the problem. So after you analyze what is the problem, then you need to develop the solution. So what kind of solution you want to use, how to adapt, how to manage, and also how you want to implement the solution to cope with the problem. So after implement the solution, and then you need to analyze the result, whether the solution you take, whether the step that you make is alright or not. Basically, after doing all this, you need to do the postmortem to see the result, to analyze the result. And lastly, you need to standardize the solution. What is the best way to cope with that problem? You need to standardize it. So that's all from me.
Thank you, Hidayatun Nadira. Before I proceed to the next slide, I would like to thanks to you all for staying with us and give your attention to our presentation. Without wasting more time, I would like to proceed to the next point, which is basic step to implement Kaizen in teaching and learning. The first basic is we need to be keen in identifying opportunities for improvement, such as always improve and modify our teaching aids to attract our students' attention. The second is we can discuss the plan of action among workforce, which is a lot better than planning alone. The third basic step is we can implement the plan and evaluate the effectiveness. Next, we can write all what we have done and keep the record to see the progression and effectiveness. And the last is we can share the effectiveness ideas and acknowledge people's contribution to appreciate the idea sharing. Now we move to the next slide, the impact of Kaizen. There are two impacts of Kaizen implementation, as we can see in the slide, which is positive and negative impact. First, we will focus to the positive impact. There are 3 points that be highlighted in this slide. The first point is improve teamwork. The second is build leadership, and the third is improve efficiency. As we know, Kaizen implementation emphasizes working as a team and continuous improvement of working. Directly, it can help workers to work effectively by practicing work smart and not work hard. As we are aware, anything that we do have their own weakness, so the negative impact by implementing Kaizen, it is difficult to implement in existing system. The change is difficult, and the third negative is training requirement might need a high cost and taking time. Okay, next we will move to the 5S in Kaizen. The 5S are consist of sort or seiri, straighten or Satan, shine or siso, standardize or siketsu, and sustain, or we call it shitsuke in Japanese. Next, we will look details about the 5S. The first is sort. Sort means sort out and separate that which is needed and not needed in the area. The second is straighten. Straighten is arrange items that are needed so that they are ready and easy to use. Clearly identify location for all items so that anyone can find them and return them once the task is complete. The third is shine. Shines mean clean the workplace and equipment on a regular basis in order to maintain standards and identify defects. The fourth is standardize. Standardize means revisit the first three of the 5S on a frequent basis and confirm the condition of the gemba, means the factory floor, using standard procedure. And the last is sustain. Sustain means keeps to the rules to maintain the standards and continue to improve every day. Okay, now we in the last slide for today, which is the type of Kaizen. As we can see, there are 5 types of Kaizen. First, we will focus on point Kaizen. Point Kaizen refers to small, isolated improvements that are easy to implement quickly. The impact of point Kaizen are typically small, but they can have a large impact. Okay, next is System Kaizen. System Kaizen relate to studying and changing how materials or information move through an organization. Refining or rearrange the flow of a system can require the reorganizing of a whole organization. System Kaizen deliver more wide-ranging value, but it is rarer than point Kaizen. Next is plain Kaizen. Plain Kaizen also referred to as a value stream, or means several lines connected together, and it's a level above line Kaizen. Value stream forgoes traditional department within an organization and structure it into product line, or means value stream. Okay, next we look about the fourth Kaizen. The fourth Kaizen is Line Kaizen. Line Kaizen refers to utilizing lean technique in both an upstream and downstream department or process, thus forming a line between the two. For example, a short-term Kaizen might be implemented in the planning department and in the procurement department. And the last Kaizen is Cube Kaizen. Cube Kaizen refers to a situation where all points of the planes are connected to each other, resulting in lean process across the entire organization. Improvements are made upstream, downstream, and throughout the entire organization, including supplier and customer. So I think that's all from us. Thank you.